What is up, my little Deinos? Vepsis here, your host of the house of Hydreigons, and we are here for the UPBA Season 4 draft analysis, when I'm gonna be taking a part of a league that is gonna be a UBERS format that I'm really excited for, because this is gonna be the first time for me to take a part of a UBERS draft league as a total in my career in itself, which is a pretty lengthy career at this point, including Wi-Fi side of the things, of course. And this is a project that I wanted to be taking part of, or similar to this, where we are gonna be using some of the UBERS Pokemon cards. Like I said, I really never done this start to finish before, in one exception in APA Academy, all the way in Generation 7. But back then I didn't draft the team. The season was already over halfway through the season itself when I took the over team. So I don't really consider it as a real experiment of my for a UBERS format for myself. So I'm really excited for this because now I can fully experience it myself. Also the drafting progress, which is usually the most fun part of taking any kind of draft league, in my opinion at very least, and many others as well. And how this draft works is that we had 115 points as total, and we could select mons between 12, 11 or 12, whichever number you felt most comfortable going with. I went with 10 because I think it's definitely good enough of number to have Pokemon for yourself. And the league as a size as a whole is pretty big actually, when you consider how many courses there are in. There are actually 32 courses in total in this league. But we are separate in two different divisions, which is gonna be basing our schedule throughout the season, which is 9 weeks in total. And the drafting itself, it also means that we have only 16 courses from each side drafting together. And my position in my division was that I got the second overall pick. So it basically meant I have the options of planning my round one between two different Pokemon, whichever end up falling to me, or I make the choice myself if none of them were picked by the course that was ahead of me, which was Cookie Gamer at this case in itself. So the way I'm gonna be doing this draft is that you're gonna see very soon my entire roster immediately. So we are not gonna be going this pick by pick. You're gonna see my entire roster, and I'm gonna be just highlighting the things that I wanna be talking about, including the UBERS Pokemon. Obviously is gonna be the first one we talk about, and that's the one we talk most about, because that's the one we know least about, if that makes any sense. Because like I said, I never done this before, so there's a lot for me to cover to know myself. And I'm sure most of you who are watching haven't done too many UBERS league yourself, if any, so it's probably the most worthwhile spending time on that. The rest of the Pokemon we already know more or less what they are doing, and I'm gonna be only talking about the ones after that that I really never got to use before in draft league, or used very little, so I don't end up repeating myself about the other drafts that I've done in the past, because there's gonna be some ones that I've used before, so there's no point of talking about them like several times that I already done in the past in itself. So that's the general idea what you can expect out of this video, and now let's go and see what I got in second overall pick. And here we are with the entirety of the roster that I drafted for the UPBA Season 4. You can see the sprites in front of you. You can see on the left side all the Pokemon in itself, like name-wise, if you cannot recognize them from the sprites, and what price they were listed in this format. Reshiram is the Uber pick that I got at second overall, and 25 points was the most expensive Pokemon that was listed. And I went with it because I thought it would be a really cool UBERS Dragon to try out, a cover legendary for my favorite games as a kid, or my favorite generation as a total, which is the Generation 5. In case you don't know, Generation 5 is my absolute favorite generation. And I guess it makes kind of sense, because you know Hydreigon is my mascot after all, so there is some sort of I kind of like hints to it already as it is. But it's really cool to use a mon like Reshiram, which is the cover legendary of those games, or one of them at least. And Reshiram has some insane stats you're gonna be seeing right now that I'm editing in, utilizing Shodan as well, kind of presenting these mons as I talk about them. And for Reshiram's sake, you can see the overall bulk that he has, like 100 HP, 100 defense, 120 speed def, and the insane special attack stat of 150. And it has some insane stab moves to go along with that, like Blue Flare and Draco Meteor, both of them having base attack, like base power wise what I should be saying of 130. That is insane considering with the special attack stat that it already has with the 150. So something is gonna take massive loads of damage from Reshiram whenever I'm gonna be clicking moves with it. I'm so excited to use this Pokemon, but it doesn't stop there. Obviously with the Dragon and Fire, it is a phenomenal defensive typing, not just offensively wise, but defensively as well. Cause the only 3 typings that it's weak to are Ground, Rock and Dragon. Everything else is neutral or very much resisted by this big fellow right here. We have access to Roost as a form of recovery, and considering the fact that heavy duty boots are in game, I don't have to worry about taking Crocs damage with this thing, as I like to say that. I obviously mean Stealth Rocks with that when I'm pronouncing it like that, weirdly Crocs. But that's how I kind of been liking to say it in the past, and like moves wise you can see that it gets a lot of different kind of coverage. But it also gets access to cool setup move like Dragon Dance, so I can surprise people with that setting up from physical side, or I can up my speed and still be a special attacker regardless, and not even try to boost on my physical attack with Flame Charge as well, and get a little bit of chip damage while at it. I can learn some niche cool moves like Solar Beam if I wanna really feel like a man and go for like a Sunny Day. Reshiram will have Sunny Day supporting my team and start firing off Solar Beams and Blue Flares. Wouldn't that be amazing actually? Hold on, I could try something like that this season, hopefully. One of these games in itself. We also get Earth Power to hit opposing bulky fire types as well, if those would be trying to deal with us that way. With my fire stabs as a whole. But overall wise, I just think there's so much to cover with Reshiram. I'm not gonna even bother talking about it too much because there's so much stuff that I can do with it, and I'm just excited to showcasing that to you as I'm stumbling on my words. Apologies if I ever stumble on my words, which for certain happens like 15 times in one video, because English is obviously not my first language that I speak of. And therefore there will be some struggles here and there for me to try to get my thought progress out there. But anyways, that is basically my UBERS pick, being the Reshiram. The next Pokemon that I actually want to talk about is the Mon right below it, which is Primarina. Primarina has been a Mon for a long time that I wanted to try out, but every single time I plan for it and it fits my draft, it always gets taken by somebody else, and I'm like, god damn it. Every time I wanna use this Pokemon, there's always somebody who is willing to go before I would be. But this time around, I actually went in second overall, because there were no really good round 2 picks left in my opinion that I could have paired well with the Reshiram. So I was like, you know what, I'm taking the Primarina now, I'll get my Steel type right after, and therefore I have a very solid Dragon Fairy Steel core, which I don't normally prioritize, but I think in a UBERS format you want to cover those typings as soon as possible, and there aren't too many fairy types I generally like in Generation 8 that I deem valuable for their price, but Primarina always seems something that seems very much worth of its price, and it gets very strong stats with water and fairy obviously with Moonblast, Hydro Pump, Scalds. It gets initiative with Flip Turn in this gen, it gets Calm Mind and Training Kits for setup. I can put a Specs on this bad girl and do a lot of damage, and like there's so much cool stuff that Primarina can do, and I've been kind of liking using in UBEA what I use on like Lightser and Bulbarical. Like offensive water types seem like a really cool thing for me lately, so Primarina kind of fits in that bill, but it obviously has a good natural typing and bulk to take key hits from physical side, but especially on special side as well, with the 116 SPDF stat and the massive special attack of 126 will ensure that this Pokemon will do damage just like my Reshiram, and that's something that I'm really excited for of Primarina as well, that it's gonna be very well suited for a bulky offense that honestly is probably my favorite playstyle to do more often than not. Believe it or not, I know there's a thing of going on that people wanna call me as a stally player, but that's not really cup of tea for me in general. I like bulky offense, and if you have been part of this channel long enough, you should know this by now. In Generation 7 that was the big preference that how I like to play. But regardless of that, The next Pokemon that I picked it was Corviknight. Nothing too special to talk about there. I wanted just a very good steel typing to round out my core. Something off the ground, something be able to remove hazards. And it just covers really well Reshiram's weaknesses. And when you think about Reshiram's and Corviknight's typing synergy together and add Primarina to it, there's a lot of good stuff going on there. The typing clearly that they don't cover is like rock typing, but Corviknight, like steel flying wise, still kind of resists rock. Like you have to be a very strong rock type to enable to pressure Corviknight. Pun intended, gotta get access to pressure obviously. So like I kind of like that typing synergy all together in itself, and Corviknight and Primarina both having access to momentum and giving me opportunity to get Reshiram for free seems kind of like a nice synergy in my opinion to try to go with. Then the next one that I really want to talk about is the Buzzwole. I don't intentionally go in order, but it happens to be this way because I valued them quickly on to pick for myself. But the next one that I really want to cover, similar to Primarina, is Buzzwole, because this is another Pokemon that I've been actually genuinely curious of trying out myself, and I think in UBERS format specifically it has so much potential, because most of the UBERS, don't get me wrong, are special attacking orientated threats, so Buzzwole is not purely designed to take those on, but there are some big physical hitters as well that people will end up picking and got picked as a Uber for themselves in round 1 that Buzzwole can be very, very useful versus. But it doesn't stop there. It's not just a Uber check in total. Buzzwole in general throughout this gen, and already in previous generation when it got first released, has been very underrated physical wall, but also a very good breaker as well, or potential choice cover as well, and it obviously get access to that beast boost as ability, which means that it can start snowballing effect, especially with the choice cover set, which can be a really nice tool as well to have as an option. But specifically as a physical wall, which can hit stuff back very hard as well, and again go with the bulky offensive playstyle that I generally like myself most often to play with. Buzzwole fits into that very well, obviously in those regards as well. So I'm really excited for Buzzwole. I have high hopes for it to do well for us and be a team member going ahead. And after that, basically the only main thing that I want to cover about the afterwards that immediately would be the rock resistance, cause Buzzwole, while being part fighting type, doesn't actually resist rock, but similar to Corviknight, it can definitely take on some physical rock types with ease regardless. But I wanted to obviously get a ground type that actually resists rock, and it can also give me those stealth rocks, or crocs as I like to pronounce them as. And with my steel typing not getting access to those, I wanted to cover my stealth rocks options off the table right away, so I have some options to put them up. So we got ourselves Nidoqueen, which is a very good ground and poison type. As we know, I've been using Nidos a lot. There's a good reason behind them why I'm doing it, and a lot of people do, because they have great coverage, getting access to rocks, getting access to T-spikes. There's so many good things about Nidos that you should be always looking at, and I think Nidoqueen will be a very valuable asset, as it normally tends to be. Celebi I got as a grass type because I think as a, again, getting access to stealth rocks is nice. I wanted to get at least some sort of way to deal with bulky waters, because bulky waters can be a little annoying for me to break, depending on which one they are, and Celebi gives me the option to deal with those and switching into those with a relatively easy and not worry about them too much at all. And again, it also get access to momentum. Some of my guys do get access to momentum that I do value, because I think it benefits Reshiram a lot to get those free swap-ins, or have mons that lure mons in and they can go for a U-turn and Reshiram can come in and pressure them back. Something that can do that very well, for example, is my Crobat that I decided to pick, because Crobat generally gets swapped by steel types very fast, and there is where the Crobat comes into play. It can lure in for bulky steel types. I can U-turn out, get my Reshiram in, and click big button again. That's the general idea what I like having as a fast mode that can be paired well within my team with something, and that's kind of Reshiram's purpose here, and Crobat helping Reshiram specifically to get it in as often free as possible. And obviously my team can be a little slow on paper normally wise, like I have some decent middle speed, but I lack some elite speed here if I didn't have Crobat, so Crobat does fulfill that role very well. Then we have something like a Zoroark providing us speed as well. But Zoroark is actually a very cool dark type to pair with this team. Because with the illusion, I can play some heavy mind games. And Zoroark is been a mod that I have not used, roughly saying, probably for 4 years at very least in Draft League format. It's been a very long time coming when I used the Zoroark before. So I'm very excited to have it once again. Like, I skipped basically entire of Generation 7 of using it. Gen 6 is the last time I remember using it. And now we are all the way like a back end of Generation 9. We are at Generation 8 still. The back end of Generation 8 that I'm finally using that thing as well. And I do think it has some cool partners that it can pair with. Not gonna reveal all of my cards where I think it comes well. But if you, like, you can see and maybe understand where I'm coming with that, but I'll leave that to myself for now. You just watch and see what it can do and what kind of mind games I can play with it. And then something else that I still wanted to cover was some of my lower tier picks. I picked Akron. It's not just there to show big on the sprite in itself, because whatever reason it's the dead in the middle, it's the biggest looking mod. But it's not just for that. Like, Akron for 2 points was actually pretty nice for me to get, because people will have actually sometimes struggled to switching to Akron when it gets access to head smash, heavy slam, very good coverage, and if I put a choice band on this guy, it can be a very good physical breaker. And my team is very special orientated. I have some hard hitters from physical side, but I feel like I need just that one huge nuke on this team from physical side, that if I really feel like I need one in matchups, I can bring that 2-point Akron and put massive amount of work that you ever seen a 2-pointer do before in Draft League format, especially in a Wi-Fi and UBERS format. You don't really get to see 2-pointers to do a lot of work, but just believe me, I do think Akron can do that a lot. And sturdy is pretty nice option as well, with heavy duty boots to be a failsafe. It can also be a dedicated lead for Crocs, cause sometimes I may go a little more offensive with my rock setter, and Akron fits that pretty well, guaranteeing me those turn 1. And then we obviously have the fan favorite, I would call it, as a type null, the beneficial rest talk that people will love about me every single time they play me. Like, that's the first thing they love to mention about me. I'm being very sarcastic with this, but like, type null is like benefits of rest and sleep talk can be the annoying, bulky normal type that can take most hits, been very reliable mod for me, and I can get a slow, nice initiative, learning like a fat fighting type, which I have several answers to. I can learn a fat steel type that I have several answers to. You can name a typing that type null like learns into fat dark what is it called? Fat ghost type. I have even a Zoroark to mess with that thing as well. So like, I feel like type null in this team actually makes a lot of sense how I can pair with it. And think about like type null and Buzzwole together. That is a really annoying call in itself, because Buzzwole is a very thick man and take fighting hits, and it doesn't mind taking knockoff either. Type null doesn't like either of those. Well, they kinda work together in that regard, and type null has a special defensive wall with Eviolite, can take a lot of hits as well, but that Buzzwole doesn't like. So you can kind of, that's like the whole concept, I guess, as a team as I looked at it as a whole, that I have good speed with Crobat, I have a lot of momentum, I have very strong bulky offensive mons that pair together typing wise, and I have obviously a damn Reshiram that can do a lot of work. That's basically how you can summarize how my draft looks, at least to me. Let me know in the comment section how you like about this team. I think it's a solid team. I wouldn't put it like up there with the rest of the, like, there's some very broken teams going in this league that I'm gonna let you decide and figure out which ones those are to you, but I think this is still a solid draft that I think I have a chance to win every week, and with the experience that I have, I think I can make it work. But there were some things I wish I would have been able to done better, and I think it's just position of the draft being second overall. There's a huge benefit to it. There was a huge downside to it, and I kind of got to see the best and the worst of both worlds when I was drafting this team. But there are parts that I quite like about it, and Reshiram is the one obviously that I'm most excited for. But let me know in comment section below how you like about the team. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and you're tuned in not tuned in, ideally. You are tuned in for this channel to make sure you won't be missing out this season. We are battling Matt O'Shea week 1. That is gonna be obviously a very hectic battle for sure, because we know how good he is. And there's gonna be always a fun battle. Looking forward to that as well. And it's gonna be a tense battle for sure. I'm fully expecting that to be the case. But that's gonna be basically it for this one. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check all of the coaches in the league. I'm sure one of them for certain will be for your liking. You have 32 people to pick from. Surely one of them is somebody you like besides me, of course. Everybody likes me, come on now. But that's besides the point. Thank you for watching yet again, and I'm gonna be seeing you guys later.